What's up guys, my name is Lex Veldhuis and welcome to a brand new edition of Learn with Lex. Today we're going to be jumping straight into a $1 bounty builder on PokerStars. I think it's really important to show you guys bounty builders as well. There's tons of bounty builders out there right now and it's a very popular format. The bounties have a huge impact on what you should do every decision, and I'm going to be going over every single decision and spot that I get. And we're off. Something that you might have noticed is there's a timer above my head. This is because I want you guys to see how long the tournament's been running. I think it's important also from a patience perspective so that you see how often I have decisions and how long I sometimes wait. We just have to wait for good decisions and we can't rush just because we haven't played anything in a while, and I think that clock will demonstrate that. Gonna fold here. This is a very large bet. We want to change the way we play. We want to change the amount of hands we play based on our opponent's bet sizing. They make it almost 5 times the big blind, so I'm just gonna fold my 7-8 suited. There is a chance I would have played it otherwise, had it just been a minimum raise. This is a very important concept, especially when you're in the big blind. A lot of people will call the same hands they always do. There's a huge difference in calling a minimum raise as opposed to somebody making it 3 times the big blind. So be very careful of that. Over here we have Queen 9 suited. We have a limper, generally somebody that's limping, which is a different word for calling. Doesn't show much strength. The way you want to play versus limpers is you want to play the hands that you would normally play from this position, but just cut out the bottom few. So don't play the worst hands you would, but still play approximately the same ones and just raise. A very dry board, meaning there's not a whole lot going on. I can't imagine them limping and then calling with a whole lot of 7s, deuces or 3s in their hand. So we're just going to go for a small bet. Now, what I think here is I bet really small on the flop. They just called before the flop and they called on this board. I think that a very large part of that group of hands is going to consist of ace highs. So I want to put some pressure here. I'm just going to make another bet just to get all of their 4s or 5s or ace 5 or ace 8 out of the equation. This is absolutely fine. Now we're just going to throw the hand away. The strategy is still sound. It makes a lot of sense from a theoretical perspective, but you know, they just had something that battled us with. They hit a jack on the turn, they had a set on the flop, something like that. But you know, the minimum raise indicates a lot of strength, and we're just gonna let our hand go, but no regrets. In these spots, I think it's very important that you realize that even though it might not work in this scenario, it's gonna work in a lot of future scenarios, right? Every situation in poker, in your head, you have to think, I have to play this 100 times. Do I profit if I play it the way I did? And that's the most important answer. Not against this specific opponent, did it work, yes or no? That's the wrong way of thinking. All right, so I raised King 9 suited under the gun. And we had a call, a min raise, call the min raise, call the min raise, call the min raise, call the min raise. So lots of people to this board. I'm recording a few of these at once because of all the dead space in the tournaments. This is much more efficient, so I had to miss the first part. I don't think there's any reason for going all in. I mean, this person having a hand like King Queen of Diamonds and going all in would be perfect. Versus them, it doesn't really change if another heart comes and have the Ace of Hearts, because they're gonna go all in with the Ace of Hearts on the turn anyway. And now we're gonna go all in. The chances that we're gonna see a fold from them is almost 0. But if we just call and check the river, there's a chance that they're gonna check their aces behind, for instance, or a hand like Ace Queen. All right, so that's a really nice pot, 5,600 pots. So now we're back over starting stack, which is great. Obviously, we lost that pot earlier with the Queen 9, but that's okay. One of the worst things you can do in poker is if you lose a big part of your stack at the beginning, to really start panicking and feel like your tournament's over. This is really, really common, and a lot of people have this. I even had this when I played EPTs in 10K buy-in. We started with 30,000 chips. If I would lose the first 15K, I pretty much feel like I had 1 foot in the grave. This is a super toxic mindset and completely unnecessary. Even after that Queen 9 hand, we still had a lot of chips. You just adjust to the new situation and you play your new stack. All right, we have ace king. You see it, me make it 3 times the big blind. We already have a caller, so we want to bump up our raise size a little bit. Otherwise, that person gets way too good odds to call along, and other people will have the same. Oh, okay. So we're just gonna go for this hand. 26 big blinds. An insanely fast call like that really doesn't indicate any strength to me. I would much more give this like ace jack offsuit. I mean, it could be a smaller pair, but I would think that they would go all in over the top. So I think that we're just absolutely cruising here against this player, especially. There you go. Jack 6. It's obviously not a great board. Jack 6 wins. Too bad I don't have a spade. But it's very important in especially bounty builders that you know that people are going to be fighting for chips, and chips are going to be flying. And you see how mad the action went there, right? We had a limper, somebody raises, and sometimes you guys will ask me, don't you think it's harder to play at R6 because people do so many random things? This is one of the most random hands I've seen in a while, not gonna lie, but at the same time, this hand is gonna make me so much money over the long run. So, you know, I lose it this time, but if you look at what I would have won there, I would have won a bounty, you know, if equities work out correctly. If luck didn't exist, then I would have had a bounty there, and I would have won 90 big blind pot, if I remember correctly. So, you know, it's just a great situation, and that's all I can do. And that's why it's also important to not play above your bankroll, because what if you only play 2 tournaments at night? Now I do understand why you would be really frustrated if something like that happens. But because I have good bankroll management and I can play hundreds of these tournaments, it doesn't matter. It's just another notch on your belt, and you just go on and play the next one. Okay, so we're 40 big blinds. We have jacks. Jacks is an extremely strong hand, definitely worth 40 big blinds. We're just going to make a re-raise here, and we're going to call their all-ins, and we already know this is good. So even if 6 times in a row somebody ends up having aces, we're not going to tell ourselves that this is a bad move. Again, this is a very important part of preparing and also not playing above your bankroll. So we're just going to call, very standard. There you go, king 10, we're a massive favorite. If we can fade a queen or a 10. Actually, a queen was no good anymore after the 10, so a great card. So now we just double up, and all you need to see is one hand like that, right? Like one time where somebody goes all in with king 10, and then it makes it so obvious on, you know, how good it is to just raise and then call with jacks. Yes, they're going to have aces sometimes. Yes, it might happen 5 times in a row. But people will also have 10s, 9s, ace-king, ace-queen that you do really well against. King 10, ace-5 suited that you do extremely well against, right? So very important to trust the process there and not be in the dumpster just because you lost it a few times. Okay, so what's interesting here is we have queen jack, which we normally would raise. We're going to make it a little bit bigger, and the reason why we make it a little bit bigger is because in bounty builders we definitely want to look ahead at the table. Is something weird? Every single time it's your decision. Is something weird going on with bounties? And yes, there is. We see here the big blind only has 0.8 big blinds behind. That means they're going to be coming along always as they should. So to de-incentivize some of the other players to come along, we're going to make it a little bit bigger already. Now, you don't want to make it too big because you don't want to alert people that it's happening as well. Obviously, it's a pretty scary board. We don't want to bet too small, though. It would be a disaster for us if just the 7 of clubs came along. Now we have a great spot to win some chips, and we do. So make sure that when you bet this board, don't bet too small just because you're scared of the board. You're still trying to isolate that bounty away from your opponents. We only have to call a small blind, so we have to call 70 for a pot of 660. These are cards also that are very unlikely to be dominated by the other players that decided to play. So we're just going to see a flop. A little bit of a small blind special, if you will. Over here we have a really good hand, but like we said so often in these series, we really have to adjust the hands that we play based on the size of our opponent's bets. This is way too much. I would definitely play this hand if it was 2.5 big blinds or 2.2 big blinds. 2.5 big blinds is already getting a little bit iffy because this person only has less than 30 bigs. So it's a bit scary, and he does have queens. If you play against players, then you could definitely make a note on this player, for instance, saying something like raise size pre-flop resembles hand strength linearly. So you could say this, and that could mean like, oh, if they raise big, then they have a big hand. Over here, we're going to raise with our Jack 10 suited, very strong hand. Everybody's very deep. We have a big stack, lots of room to play, and this hand is definitely 100% supposed to be in the group of hands that we play, almost from any position. Sometimes you definitely want to be calling with Jack 10. 40 big blinds is way too much though. If this was like 20 big blinds, I would definitely consider it, but now we're just going to fold. Alright, so we're going to call here. We're in the big blinds. There was a raise and a call. For a pot of 6.2 big blinds, we only had to pay 1 big blind, and we have a suited hand. One thing that's really important to remember is that when somebody opens the minimum and you're in the big blind with a suited hand, you almost always call. Now, I understand if you guys want to fold the 8-3 suited, the 7-deuce suited, because you're not used to playing it yet. But if somebody opens the minimum, folding a hand like 9-5 suited from the big blind should be a crime. You have amazing odds, you're going to flop well enough so often. This also goes for hands with multiple people. So there's a raise and a call. You have queen four suited in the big blind, you call. And obviously what we talk about as well a lot, if the raise size goes up, so if somebody doesn't make it the minimum but make it 3 times the big blind, then obviously we're going to make a little bit of a selection in which suited hands we want to play. Alright, so we have ace 4 suited here. If this person was not in, I would have definitely played this hand. What's really bothering me about this instance is they're calling from the first position, which is the strongest position to do anything from. Even calling is stronger than calling from here, right? This person disregards that fact, raises. I am really worried that either something's going to happen behind me with these 2 mammoths of a stack, or exactly this happens, that this person is waiting in the wings to just get all of his chips in. He could even have a hand like ace 10 suited and think, hey, there's so much money in the middle, I don't really think any of these guys are strong, I'm going to get it in. And just that danger, just to get out of that way with ace 4, just because this could very well happen, I decided to throw it away. And we see 2 monsters of hands. And plays out. Obviously, you're going to feel like a fool sometimes when you call, and they call as well. But you know, there's always a big risk. And now we have a very interesting spot immediately, because a 5 big blind stack. Anytime you have a hand in a bounty builder, the first thing you do is you scout the table to look at the lay of the land. Okay, so we saw this person make it 4.7 earlier when we had king 9 suited. He had queens. Alright, I still think that ace-jack suited is good enough to call. This could also be their standard raise. I've only seen him play 2 pots. But it's very important on that previous read. Ace-jack suited is just an incredibly strong hand. It's very important on that previous read to know that this person raised preflop size resembles hand strength linearly. To be really honest, I wouldn't have minded to see myself folded ace-jack suited as well. Turn could bring a spade. Ace high, this ace high could be good. We don't know for sure yet, right? We don't know if this player if maybe this person loves 4.7 times the big blinds. Could be. Alright, so this is where bounty builders get interesting. We raised ace 10 and we see an all-in here from 5 big blinds. What's very important is that we isolate this. This value represents so many chips. There's dead money in the middle. It would be a disaster to let a hand like 8-9 suited see the board. If they had a hand like ace king, ace queen, or aces kings, whatever, there's a very big chance they would have re-raised already before the flop. So this is a relatively safe situation. Now, of course, we can get tricky sometimes too, and I could also sometimes flat call here with aces or kings just to get those people in. But now we get it heads up, lots of dead money. They're dead to a 7. We win a bounty. We win 14 big blind pot. Really, really nice. No sweat, and we only risk 5 big blinds. Sometimes people think that going all in for big stacks in bounty builders, that it's gambling. But what you're actually doing is you're putting your opponent to the test with also marginal raise. If they call with king queen off, they're the ones gambling. But isolating with ace 10, you're just protecting what's out there, and you have a good hand that also will do well once all the chips go in. All right, we're gonna call here from small blinds. We want to call in a small blind a lot. We get insane odds. We only have to pay 125 for 6 something. And I'm just gonna bet at this. Just because from the small blind we're gonna have a lot of hands around a 9 and an 8, like, you know, hands like jack 7, jack 10, queen 10. king 9, king 8, queen 8. So nice, we take that down. Raise a7, of course, very good hand. Flop a 7. I think it's okay to go for some protection. Again, as we always say, when you're with a lot of players, you don't have to bet big. We can just bet small. We immediately lose a player. Alright, so we're gonna do our scout around the table. Is there anything weird with bounties going on? Are these guys calling because there's super short stacks here? It does seem like people are just calling. I don't think a7 is good enough to go all in. There could be some traps there, mainly from this person. I don't think that this person is ever trapping with a good hand because they're so short and they should just get all their hands all in. We're just gonna check, and we're not gonna do anything funky there. There are definitely situations here where I would use the ace to make it 4 or 5 big blinds, or sometimes even go all in pre-flop, but this is just not one of them. Very interesting spot here. Normally when there's a raise and a call, even from these positions, right, it doesn't really matter when you have a small pocket pair where people raise from. Even if they raise from the strongest positions, I'm still playing to just to hit a 4. Now what's really nice also, sometimes it's even nicer that they raise from a strong position, because then you just have a bigger chance you're getting paid. This is way too big though, especially seeing my stack, and I don't think I have the... I still think it's a good fold. Very important to remember that. Over here, we're going to make it 3 big blinds. We had a caller 10s, obviously super strong. If they go all in, you know, there's a chance that people do that with aces from that position, but they also have a lot of shit like ace 9 suited or king 10, or we even saw jack 6 suited in another video. No reason to bet here though. We're going to check. Still have some slow plays, but our check looks still kind of weak, but that's just something we have to live with. I am going to fold. I do think there's too much jack 10, king queen, king 10 in there for us to really battle. Alright, so we have ace king here. It's going to be one of the last hands of the video. Let's hope it's a good one. Maybe we can even sneak in a little bounty. Obviously, we did a little scan for the table. There's no real outliers. There's nobody with 1 or 2 big blinds. That can definitely change the way we play hands a bit. But as for now, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to raise ace king. That's a pretty horrible flop. I'm going to make a small bet, which is fine. We're very short stacked, so... And we get it through, so that's nice. So for min raises, we definitely want to call. 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, all really strong hands in the big blinds. It's very unlikely somebody has a 4 or 5 in their hand, so our pairs are most of the time going to be good, or at least not dominated. And here too, I have to call 1 big blind for a pot of 8. Insane odds, and I just get to pick and choose what I want to do after the flop. All right, so we missed this one. I'm going to call this video right here. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I think one of the main things that we learned today is when you get a hand, the first thing you need to do in Bounty Builders is scout the table. Look around. Are people's behavior going to change because there's somebody with a bounty with only 1 big blind? Do you need to raise a certain amount to protect yourself in an all-in versus somebody who's already all-in with a bounty? There's all these things in Bounty Builders. So don't autopilot. Look at the table. Look at your hand. Make a decision and know that there's always a bounty on the line. I really hope you enjoyed it. I am very much enjoying this segment with Learn with Lex, but I would always like to hear you guys' feedback. Make sure you like, subscribe to the video so I know that you like it, and then also drop a comment. And I read every comment and I reply to most comments as well. So if you have some questions or some suggestions, please leave them down below. I hope to see you guys next time, and take care. Bye-bye.